All right, we are live. God has blessed us with so much wisdom, especially us parents that are parenting children with additional needs. You don't need to lose yourself because you are caring for your child. You don't need to shrink. Neither do you need to hide because you have a child with additional needs. You have to begin to rebuild yourself if you find yourself in a place where it looks as if you can no longer find yourself. You need to rebuild yourself. You need to reclaim your identity and parent your child with confidence. Welcome again to Thriving Moments. This is the time where we talk about things that pertain to what we do in this journey. You can't be in this section and don't go home with something tangible. Today, we have in our midst a special guest. I will just quickly run through her biography so that we know that today is fully packed. We have Dr. Rose Mbanefo. Yes, she's the founder of Mindful Bridges Therapy Foundation. Yes, MBTF. Yes. Mindful Bridges Therapy Foundation. It's an NGO supporting children with different abilities in the UK and in Nigeria. She has over 20 years experience across project management, finance, HR, and academia. She brings both professional and live expertise to her work. She holds a PhD in business and management. She's a postgraduate diploma in autism from the University of Leeds here in the UK, and currently she lectures and supervises postgraduate students at Aden University, Manchester. Dr. Mbanefo is a conference speaker and media contributor on autism and development disabilities. She has passion about helping caregivers. Yes, she helps parents. If you're in the education sector, if you are a guardian, she help people like that, yes, to thrive without losing themselves. So therefore, this topic truly befits Dr. Rose. Yes, how to rebuild yourself without losing yourself in caregiving. Once again, I want to welcome all those that will be present tonight and those that will watch this later. I'll bring now on the stage Dr. Rose.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, viewers. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. So, like my beautiful sister has said here, introduced me. Now, this is a very, very important topic. Now, this is a topic that I feel almost emotional about. And so today, I'm actually hoping that by the end of this session, that we will be able to, at least look into what's going on with us as parents and as mothers, with all due respect. Of course, I do know the fathers are also putting in their big butts. I mean, as mothers, we have that, that dual role of nurturing and, doing every other thing. Okay, so today we're looking at how to rebuild yourself without losing yourself in caregiving. And I think with some pride, I'm going to say that now these are things that I do, and these are things I've done. So I mean, I'm not just giving, I'm not just giving out of the blues, advice or strategies. So these are some of the things that I do currently and that they work as well. And of course, I do understand that every child is different, but yes, I do know to a large extent that we'll be able to get something very useful from this session when we're done. Okay, so we will just start straight away. Okay, so I suppose you can all see my slide. Can you see? Because what I've done is that I've just kind of put this into into slides so that you can also go back and look at it later on if you want. I can make that available at the end, at the end of this session. So, host, can everyone see my slide?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. Hmm.
All right. Yeah, she's trying to call up her slide, and I promise you will be glad you listen to this section. Dr. Rose is somebody I respect so much. She is a special needs mom. Yes. So you know that when we bring guests to you in these thriving moments, we are not just bringing them because we want to bring them to you. We are trying to let you know that you can actually be a parent and not lose yourself. You can actually guide your child and be that person God wants you to be. Oh yes, it is possible. Dr. Rose is one person that walked through this journey, and she is still in this journey. Yes. So when we talk about rebuilding yourself without losing yourself in caregiving,
Yeah.
that is what we are looking at
I
tonight.
apologize. Yeah, I apologize
Welcome
for
back,
that.
ma'am. Yeah.
I apologize for that. Okay, so um, I'll just upload my files, my slides again.
All right. We hear, ma'am. Oh, good evening, Mommy Bridget. Good evening. I see you, all those watching. Just give us some time to upload our slides, and we
Yeah, I had it
will keep
uploaded just a
going.
few moments ago. Host, are you sure? Maybe I share the file with you, and then you can be doing that. What do you think?
Yeah, you could. You could
Okay, okay, yeah, sure.
just try and see if you can send here.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
I
you
have
can
it.
send it to me.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I'll send that to you as well.
Yeah. Can you see the slide yourself? Can you see the slide?
Yes. So I can see just what's it called? Just the tiny file, but I'm just trying to expand that, but it's not expanding for me. Not sure why. Okay. We could see that earlier on. Remember before we started. I'm
Yeah,
not sure
yeah.
what's happening. Okay, but do you know what we'll do? Even if we can't see it, even if we can't see it, what I'll do is that I'll just talk through the slides, and then I
Yeah,
can
you can. Yeah.
yeah, and then I can make that available later on. Is that
Available.
okay? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We could do
Yes,
with that. Yeah. We could do with
absolutely,
that. We are
absolutely.
listening. Yeah. Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, right. Okay, fine. So, okay. So the first thing I would want us to talk about would be, first of all, we need to actually understand. Okay, like I said earlier on, when you're a parent of a child who has a disability, okay, you're actually faced with three roles. So you become the mother, you become the parent, you become the advocate. So I think I might just ask, first of all, how many of us how many of us here have ever felt, at some point in your life felt lost? When I say lost, I'm not talking about time, I'm not talking about energy, I'm not even talking about money, I'm talking about you feeling lost as an individual. And again, now, so this question that I have asked now, I mean, I don't expect an immediate answer, but I've just asked that question because I want you to kind of awaken something in you, because sometimes we don't even know we're lost. That happens, because that happened to me, for instance. So obviously, like I said, that happened to me sometime. So there was a time I kind of just felt myself. I was lost. I didn't realize that I was losing myself. And again, something strange about this is that it did not happen overnight. It was something that was gradually happening over time. It was insidious. So just like an illness, sometimes, and maybe you wouldn't know that you're ill, but these things, they keep happening. You wouldn't even know that you're losing yourself until you wake up one day and you find out that you're completely lost. I don't know if anybody can relate with that statement, because this is something that happens, and it happens to, I mean, even parents of typical developing children, it happens. How much more parents of neurodivergent children? Like I said, I don't know, does this ring a bell? I mean, has anybody ever felt something like this in their lives before? Okay. Well, basically, what I'm saying is that, you see, you just find out that there's nothing about you going on anymore that you're thinking about. But yet, despite the fact that you're lost, you keep showing up every day for your child. You keep showing up for appointments. You keep showing up for I mean, you're there for them when they have their tantrums, when they have their meltdowns, and all of that. I mean, you're doing everything that needs to be done, but you stop existing in your own life. So that's the situation that many mothers or many parents, please, with all due respect to the men that are here, I'm not saying the men are not there, they're actually there, but obviously being a mother, I'm used to saying the women. Okay, so let me tell so we come to the personal moment, and this is my own story. Okay, like I said, I didn't realize that I was lost, and it was something that was happening slowly. So that brings me to something I'm going to talk about. Obviously, many of us would have heard the story before, but I've kind of slightly adapted it just to fit the context that we're talking about. Because majority of us here, we are Africans. So the title, like I said, I'm not the original narrator, but I've adapted it so in some way. So the title is "Welcome to Somalia." Okay, so now having a child who has neurodivergent needs is just like somebody traveling. Okay, you want to travel for the first time. Let's say you live in Nigeria. This is just an assault. This is just I'm just an analogy. So you live in Nigeria. So you've been planning all your lives. You want to go to Los Angeles. Okay, so you've gone on Google. You've gone on the internet. You've checked every single thing you need to know about Los Angeles. So you've checked out all the shops you're going to go on Boulevard Street. You've checked out how you're going to go to all the stars. To go to Beverly Hills. I mean, everything about Los Angeles. You have researched it so much that somebody could wake you up and ask you about Los Angeles, and you'll be able to, and you'll be able to talk about it. And then guess what happens? You hop on that flight, with all the excitement, with all that excitement, you hop on the flight. Okay, and then you hop on the flight, and then after probably, let's say you were flying from Lagos, for instance, and then probably after 8 9 hours, the pilot says to you, "Welcome to Somalia." And you look around and you say, "But no, but my boarding pass says Los Angeles. Now I'm not going to Somalia." And the pilot says, "Well, sorry, this is where the flight is going to stop. There are no connecting flights. There are no transfers. In fact, there are no more airplanes." Of course, we do notice it's just a hypothetical kind of scenario. But the reason I've just used this is just for us to understand really what we're going through. Okay, so that's how that's how it is. So when you were having that child, okay, you were planning to have that typical developing child that will go through the developmental milestones and all of that. Okay, so that was your Los Angeles, right? And then your flight has landed at Somalia. Now remember, you did not plan for Somalia. That wasn't in your plan. So what do? So do you just stay back on the flight? Okay, do you just stay on the flight? Remember, they've said there's no more, they're not going to anywhere else. So what do? Are you going to just sit back on the flight, or are you going to just like, sorry, I'm just laughing. Somebody said something. Yes, so that's me you're talking about, ma. Yeah, I'm happy someone is able to relate with what I'm talking about. So so what do you do? At some point, of course, you're going to initially you're going to be disappointed, but what do? You still have to come out from that fight, right? Because trust me, okay, despite everything going on in Somalia now, I've just used Somalia now because I'm not necessarily, of course, Somalia is not the worst country in the world, but what I'm saying, you can't compare that to Los Angeles, right? So trust me, despite that disappointment, there's still something beautiful about Somalia, right? So the same way you made that effort to go and look up things on Los Angeles, is the same way you will need to go back, okay? And look at Somalia. What's happening there? There are some beautiful things there. They have beautiful beaches, by the way, right? So there are things there in Somalia that you could also, just just kind of take it and adapt it and live your life, right? Now that's something really very good. But I tell you, you see, now for the parents of children who have neurodivergent needs, but the issue we have could be twofold. Number one, okay, some of us we don't really get off that flight. Yeah, we don't really get off that flight. When I say we don't get off that flight, that's denial. And again, like I said, some that will be looking at some personal things because it happened to me. For some time, I didn't get off that flight. I was on that flight for a long time, even when the flight had landed, and the pilot had said, "Sorry, this is where it is." I was still on that flight, so that's denial. Okay, that's one. Then, secondly, for some of us, that manage, okay, we have that courage to get off the flight. Some of us will get off that flight, but guess what happens? We spend all our time researching Somalia. Again, that is good that we're researching Somalia. But in the process of researching Somalia, we forget to leave. So in the long run, we have invested so much energy, so much time, so much emotions, okay, touching Somalia that we actually forget to leave. Okay, so that's the situation, So I've just kind of broken this down, just for us to kind of just relate to that and understand what's going on, because sometimes we might need a wake up call, to actually get on in life. So do I continue? Yeah. Does anybody? Yeah, because I really want. I know this is a seminar, but I want it to also be very interactive. Because I want us to really, 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 to really relate with this. Because I think some of the things I'm going to say or that I'm saying would actually, there are things that actually, that we can really, really relate with. Because we have these children, and we're with them, we live with them, that with us every day of our lives. So please, if anybody has any comment, I'll be very happy to I'll be very happy to kind of just slow down a bit and entertain that. Okay, so sorry, host, let me just try again and see if I can share this slide, because I'll be very, very happy to so that people can see what I'm doing. Okay, I think the best might even be just to send this to you. Might just make more sense. Please just bear with me. Yeah, because I kind of think if I share, that would be very helpful. Okay.
Yeah, it's on now, ma'am.
Is
Yes,
it
it's
on?
on now, ma'am.
So you
Yes,
can
it's
see
on.
it.
I can
Oh,
see it
very
now.
good. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is, but can you still see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh,
Yeah,
silly. Can you imagine
we
that?
can
Okay,
see you.
very good. Oh, very good, very
Yeah.
good, very good. Okay, right. So yeah, so because we have started sharing the slide, I think I might just go back a little bit. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
So right. Okay. So all right. So this was the first slide, rebuilding without disappearing. Yeah. And I'm sure you can see this picture right there, of a mother obviously helping her child. That's the first slide. So the mother
Yeah.
helping her child is typically developing. Yeah. Okay, so I talked about myself. So I said I did not lose myself overnight. It happened slowly, quietly, and I didn't even realize that. And like I said earlier on, I could name all the appointments that my child had. In fact, even when I was sleeping, okay, the moment you tap me, okay, I could just say to you, "Oh, he has an OT therapy tomorrow." I mean, I could even tell you the distance from my house to the to the center or wherever he had the appointment. I could even tell you how long it would take us to get. I could even tell you what route to follow. So you can imagine that. So I mean, in all of that, I had disappeared quietly while I was trying to love, you know. And like I said, that that brought us to the story of Somalia. So the important thing, like I said earlier, I'm just reiterating what I said earlier. If you live your life mourning the fact that you did not go to LA, or of course you're human, so it's going to hurt you that you had paid for a flight ticket to get to LA, but you ended up going to Somalia, right? Now, that brings us that brings us to where we are about the identity, the caregiver identity trap, because basically that's what we do, caregiving, isn't it? Okay. So if you think about it, as a mother of a child who has an additional need, you find out that what it is that you become the advocate. Of course, we all go through that, whether in your child's school, whatever, you become your child's protector. Okay. And sometimes if you find out that you're even doing that, even amongst the siblings, because I remember then, my son, if he were to have a problem with his siblings, straight up, I just step up for him. I just go, oh, no, 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 but you shouldn't do that to him. You shouldn't say that. So you find that you're protecting your child everywhere, even sometimes when you don't necessarily need to even come in. But of course, it's all good. You become the scheduler. So in the sense that, okay, you need to make all the appointments for their therapy and all of that. You become the fighter. You know, you find out that you become that one who keeps everything going as long as that child is concerned. You're doing every single thing for that child. But in doing that, you stop being the dreamer. Remember, you had dreams before you had that child, right? You stop being the creative one. You stop being the rested one. You stopped being the person with your own desires. And you also stop being the you. The you. Remember that you were someone before you had that child. Okay, again, like I said, everything I'm saying today, I'm just kind of relating it to my own experience. Okay, growing up, I loved music. In fact, I still love music now, but I think for about 6 years, that part of me disappeared. Okay, because I remember when I was younger, if you wanted me, I mean, I could clean 200 rooms as long as there was music. But when my son came, in the middle of it all, I lost even. In fact, I didn't even remember there was anything like music. I mean, I had my own, I had my own dreams, but all of that stopped, and that's what happens because we're losing ourselves. Okay, so that brings us, yeah, because if you think about it, that relates to our topic today. So, in the process of caregiving, okay, in the process of discovering Somalia, remember that you remember that's what it is, quote unquote. In the process of discovering Somalia, we stopped dreaming because remember before we hopped on that flight, we had somewhere we are going to, right? I mean, we had things we wanted to do. We're creative. We're resting, but because we were now discovering Somalia, we lost our identity. Okay, so now that we understand now how we got into that trap, quote unquote, and some of the things that some of the things that were actually happening to us without us realizing that those things were happening. Okay, so in that process, we were listening to some lies, or we were being told some lies. So it could actually be we were told those lies, or we believed those lies, again, out of self-pity. And again, that happened to me because when I went from denial, because remember, again, that was in the UK. So when I went from denial, that, oh, well, no, there's nothing wrong with him. He's just being speech delayed, to even with the diagnosis, I still did not believe that. So when I eventually got off my own flight, okay, and I landed in Somalia, again, I spent a lot of time, trying to discover Somalia, that I forgot all about myself. Okay, and some of the lies I told myself was, thank you very much. Yeah, wholesome family solution. Thank you. Yeah, very relatable. Thank you for that. So we don't go into midlife crisis. Yeah, exactly. So that's a good one. So all right. So basically, uh, you tell yourself, if I focus on my child, if I focus on myself, I'm neglecting my child. No, but that's not true. You can't pour from an empty cup, right? I mean, you can't give what you don't have. And then another lie was say, if I rest, I'm being selfish. If I ask for space, I am failing. So these are some of the lies, that we have made ourselves to believe, And then, so some of the truth there is that space is not selfish. It is survival. You need to be alive for you to look after that child. If I abandon myself, I model abandonment, which is true. Because again, remember, for some of us now, our children with neurodivergent, it might not be the only children that we have. We might have other children. For me, at that time when my son was diagnosed, I had 3 people before him. So can you imagine what my daughters would have been, I mean, what lesson would they have been learning from me? That, okay, so at the first sign of at the first sign of trouble, you give up. Even that your child who has that has those additional, it's also watching you, remember. Yeah.
True.
So so again, you need to understand. So the truth about it is that your child, my child, our children, okay, they need a whole human being, not a disappearing one. Because if you're not there mentally, emotionally, and physically, how are you going to look after that child? So we would need to just get up. It's not easy. I mean, don't get me wrong. The fact that I'm saying it this way, I'm not saying it's something that you just get up and you move. No, but we need to be very intentional about these things. You need to be very, you need to be very intentional about it. Yeah. Okay. So, before we continue, I just wanted just to tell it a personal story again, which is true. Now, a friend of mine passed. She passed on, I think, about 8-9 years ago. So she was the mother of a child who had additional needs. I mean, this woman's life centered all around the child. And of course, naturally, especially being mothers, that's what you would expect, right? So everything about her centered around this child. I remember the first day I noticed she was losing a lot of weight. And I said to her, have you seen the GP? And she goes, oh, okay, don't worry. Yes, I will. She had, she had the big C. She had the terrible C, And guess what? She's no more here. But that child is still there. That child is still here, surviving. And for me personally, that was a wake-up call for me. To be honest, that was a big wake-up call for me. So I think it was at that time that I really, I think I really became a bit more, should I say, a bit more mindful, or should I say, maybe I became a bit more honest with myself, because that child yes, you need to do what you have to do, but at the same time, we also need to be very, very mindful. Just like somebody said earlier on, that you need to be careful before you enter midlife crisis. That's a funny one. Yeah, but that's true. That's true. So yeah, so our children, they actually need a whole somebody who is okay mentally, physically, and emotionally. Yeah. And so the question that changes everything, it's who are you? Again, I don't even expect any answer now, but again, it's something that we need to think about. Okay. Yeah. Who are you? And again, we're all different people. So who I am and who you are may not be the same thing. But remember, we were all people before we had these children. And again, think about it. Who will you be when the caregiver, when the caregiving, when it changes? Who are you? Who will you be? Because let's be honest, these children, okay, the level of care that they need from us, the level of care and support they need from us, of course, please God, would not be the same, okay? Because I do know that we're all working towards, making them very independent.
All right, can you hear me? If you can hear me, put on the comment section that you can hear me, because we just lost our guest. Yes, due to network issues. And this section has been amazing. It has been amazing. She was just trying to ask us, who are we? Who do you think you are in this section?
Hello?
I'll try to
Yeah.
bring her back again.
Okay. Oh, no, I'm
We
here.
lost you. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, sorry. I didn't even
It
realize that.
froze. Yeah.
And I kept talking. I didn't even realize
I
that.
saw it because your slides changed.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's just after this slide, the next one, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
this
so
is where
we're
we
yeah,
are, I
so
think.
yeah, so we're actually here. Right. Okay, so yeah. So like I said, who are you and who will you be? Okay, who will you be? Who will you be when your child's care giving role? Who will you be when it changes? Okay. So what happened to those dreams? What happened to those aspirations that you had before? You know? So
Mm.
again, like I said, this is not something I don't even expect an answer right now, but I just want you to just kind of think, So the same way when my friend passed on, the same way it was a wake up call for me. So I'm actually hoping that for some of us that haven't thought about this, I also want this to be like a wake up call for you. Think about it. Who are you right now? Who are you? And who will you be when your caregiving role when it changes? Because like I said, there'll come a time it would happen, when your child may not need you in the way that they need you now, so in the way that they need you now. This question is not meant to scare you, like I said. Okay, it's just meant to kind of wake you up, because do you know what, when that child no longer needs you in that same way, you still have a life that belongs to you. So what will you
Mm.
be doing with your life at that time? What will you be doing? So again, like I said, this is something I just want us to just kind of so but anyway, so in doing that, what I also did was that I kind of just developed I just kind of developed just like a little framework, okay, that I call it the rebuild framework. So it basically is a kind of practical way to care deeply without disappearing completely. Okay. So R stands for reclaim your space, E establish structure, B stands for balance, care, and self, because that's very important.
Mm. Mm.
U
Mm.
stands for understand your energy.
Mm.
I integrate your role. Okay, because for me, I am my son's. Okay, I'm Ebube's mom, but I'm also I'm Ebube's mom, but I'm also a lecturer. Okay, and I'm also a founder of an NGO. So my role and my title doesn't just end as Ibube's mom. No.
mm,
So the same way
mm,
it is for all of us. So you must learn to integrate the two roles. Then you also learn to live intentionally. Okay, just like someone said earlier, honestly, I think I'm a bit amused by that comment, so that's why I keep going back to it. So, you know, the person said you need to be, otherwise midlife crisis. I like that, midlife crisis, and before you know what's happening, it's there. And then you need to define yourself again, define
mm,
yourself or redefine yourself, um um you
mm,
know whichever one. So right, so what we'll do, we just go through through all of them. So, right. So the first one, reclaim your space without guilt. Remember what I said earlier on. Yeah, I remember what I said earlier on, that these are some of the lies. So it tells you that, okay, every day, you need to be there for the child. You need to attend all the appointments. Sometimes, if the appointments, if they don't suit, I mean, i- if you're down emotionally, mentally, and physically, to be honest, it will be difficult to do all of those things, right? So it's okay to kind of say, you know what, I'm not disappointment, I'm going to cancel it. It's okay, right? As long as there's nothing life threatening in it for your child.
mm,
So claim 10 minutes that belong only to you, you know, no caregiving, no admin, no multitasking. You're not wicked, you're not mean. You're looking after yourself. Like I said, you can't pour from an empty cup. If there's nothing in the cup, there's nothing to pour out. Yeah, there's nothing to. I mean, you can't give what you don't have. It's as simple as that. You know. So protect one quiet ritual. So there must be something, something about it, and don't feel guilty about it. Yeah, well, it could be prayer. You could actually start up a journal. It's up to you. You could stretch. You could have tea, music. You could even go. A friend of mine, what she does is she just does window shopping. And again, everybody's personal space is different. I don't like going to the shop, so for me, that'd be more stress for me. What I like most, sit on my bed, listen to music, write journals, because I like reading and doing articles. So everybody's different.
mm,
And again, practice saying I will do this later without apology. Okay,
mm,
but in all of this, please remember that choosing yourself first does not mean that you're rejecting your child. Far from
mm,
that.
mm,
Far from that. That's not what it means. And again, something I've learned to also do is, you see, if somebody says to you, "Oh, do you need help? I can actually stay with okay, I can actually excuse me." Somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, you know what? I can actually stay with people." You go immediately accept it. I mean,
mm,
don't start feeling, yeah, yeah, because basically, don't start feeling guilty that the person might say, "Oh, my child is behaving in this way," or "My child is
mm,
behaving in that way." It doesn't matter. So if the person has offered, okay, to do that, please, with all, I tell you, accept it, because you need you to be in one form. Okay,
mm,
and yeah, so it doesn't mean that I mean, it doesn't mean that you're actually putting your responsibility on someone else. No. And it
mm,
doesn't and it doesn't even matter how your child behaves. No, I mean, the person that has asked would actually know. And as far as I'm concerned, if somebody is really there for you, that shouldn't be an issue for the person anyway. So right, so that's for the first R there. So the E there is so that's the three block day system. Okay, so I call it just basically for you to establish a structure. So again, remember these children, many of them, they want a structure, and that structure, trust me, is not only for the child, even for you. I mean, can you imagine somebody were to come to your house now and say to you, "You know what, get your bags, you're going to China," or get your bag, you're going to Ghana.
mm,
Honestly, yeah, you're going to be wondering. just like that. No prior no prior knowledge or something, so for our children, well, my son, okay, I have an activity, a visual schedule that I use for him, so he knows. Okay, so he knows on Tuesdays it's basketball today, on Wednesday it's swimming, for instance. So the same way you've also established that routine, that structure for your child, you also need that. Okay, so what I do is every day. If you look at what I have here, now you may not have appointments every day, right? But you have routines every day with the child. You have supervision. So let's say your child was at the stage of learning to feed himself or herself, or that your child was at the stage of you were doing toilet potty training, for instance, or that you were teaching your child how to write, right? That's supervision, right? So you need to supervise that child as well. Or therapies or meals, okay, especially meals and transition. These are things that happen every day. So every day when you wake up in the morning, one or two or three or four of these things must happen in that day, right? So but basically you've broken your day into a three block day. Then your personal block. Remember, I said you must make out time for yourself in the morning, even if it was in the evening. 10, okay, just 10 minutes, 20 minutes. So just target that. It could be time for you to do reflection. I do a lot of reflection, and obviously it has to be just me, doing that. So I could even be in the bathroom for a longer time just because I'm reflecting. And when I'm doing that, I lock my room door so nobody comes into my room at that time. That's me. That's my me time. I could decide to be in the bathroom for 40 minutes. So but basically, so just make our time. Then flexible buffer block. You see, as parents of neurodivergent children, again, you also need to make a time that anything can happen. Anything can happen. And I sincerely mean it, anything can happen. Now, okay, so I'll tell you a typical story, yeah. My son, there was the day he had an appointment at the hospital, the Bolton Hospital, right? Now, so I picked him up from school. And I picked him up, okay, fine, probably maybe, I picked him up in time, but not good time, if you know what I mean. Yeah, when I picked him up, I didn't pick him up as a parent of a child who has additional needs. I mean, I just picked him up as in, okay, I'll pick you up from school, we'll go for the appointment. But guess what? When we got to the hospital car park, right? I had parked, and of course, if we had gone in at that time, he would have been able to attend his appointment. But we got to the car park, and I parked. I wanted to get him. He refused to come out. He was having a meltdown, a serious tantrum for whatever reason. I just don't know what happened to him that day. Probably it could have been anything. Maybe they got him upset in school. Yeah, that could have been. It could have been something his sibling did to him in the morning, and he decided to just have it. He just decided to show me he was upset at that. He refused to come out from the car. I mean, I tried every trick that I could. Okay, he wouldn't come out. Okay, so by the time I managed to get him out, we got in, and they said I was 25 minutes late. And I mean, I pleaded and I begged. They refused. Now, don't forget, I had taken time off work for us to meet up with that appointment. You can only imagine what that did to me mentally and emotionally, right? And of course, whether we like it or not, there's a ripple effect, yeah? Because the moment I got into the car, I was upset, okay? Naturally, because it was too overwhelming. And I started screaming at him, and then he even got more upset. So in the long run, yeah. So in the long run, it's you, so everything will still come back to you. Okay. But can you imagine if I had really thought of it as a parent of a child who has additional needs, and I had given, like enough time, So yeah, so basically, what I'm just trying to say is, you see, life with our children is very unpredictable. So there are delays, there are meltdowns, there are unexpected moments. So the truth is about this is that if you don't plan for disruption, disruption will plan your day. That's the thing. And you end up
Mm,
becoming even more frustrated,
mm,
you know. So right. So that's about the flexible buffer block. So when you're planning, in other words, in essence, what I'm saying is that you just need a structure. You need to have a structure, just like your child needs to have a structure as well. Yeah. Okay. So right. So the other B is a balance care. So balance care for yourself and for your child, but you still function as a person. Okay. So what I've said here is that you're still allowed to be a full person while being a committed caregiver. So again, it takes us back to what I said earlier on about keeping one personal habit alive. Reading, walking, writing, dressing well. Yeah, dressing well. I mean, it makes me, I mean, we're all human beings, and I'm sure we can relate with that. I mean, anytime you look good, I mean, it makes you happy, doesn't it? So again, and you just know something, you don't owe nobody any explanation, because nobody does the hard work with you. So it's okay for you to feel however well you want to feel. And then, of course, you also have to stay connected to people, and stay connected to adults and conversations beyond appointment and crisis. But obviously, in staying connected to people, you also need to protect your mental health.
mhm,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because sometimes some adults are, of course, you know yourself. So use identity anchors. So I'm still someone who thinks, feels, dreams, and grows. So what are your dreams? Okay, what are your dreams? Like for me, when my son is 15 at this time, right? So he had his diagnosis in 2012. Yeah, no, 2013. Sorry, 2013. We had started the process, and I'm free 2014. Now, okay, now I tell you. So before that, I had started my PhD before the diagnosis. But when that happened, remember I said to you that I first of all was on the flight. I lived in denial,
mhm, mhm,
and so what did I do? I just stopped. I stopped everything. You can imagine. Now I had just 1 year to finish. I just stopped everything. I wouldn't even So but when I got that wake up call, I just said to myself, Rosemary, you had a dream before you had this boy, before you had your son. So what's gonna happen? Are you just gonna allow your dream just to die that way? And when I finally got off that flight, I started, I started again, because it was something I was very passionate about, and so you see, when I did that, I felt very, very, or rather, when I finished that, I felt very fulfilled, and of course, we do know it's still, yeah, it's all part of what we're talking about, because you find out that the moment you begin to do those things, you begin to chase your dream, and you begin to chase your dream. Honestly, you find out that you'd even feel better, both mentally, emotionally, physically, to be able to look after your child.
true.
Yeah, so yeah, so caring for your child does not require erasing your personhood. You're a human being, and again, remember what I said earlier on. Who will you be when your child no longer requires that same level of care? What are you going to be doing? We should always remember that. So the U stands for understand. So it stands for understanding and regaining control of your routine and your energy. Okay, because sometimes the problem we have, it's not just that you don't have the time. You don't have the time. It could also be unmanaged energy. And the truth about it is that, you see, unmanaged energy comes from, I don't want to say the word depression, but yes, it's also that, you know, because I remember what happened to me. I remember what happened to me, at my older, and unfortunately, nobody really knew what I was going through. Yeah, because I'll wake up in the morning. In fact, in the morning, I hated the mornings. That's the truth. Yeah, because in the morning you need to just open up the blinds, and then the day has started. but I just wanted to be in the dark. So it wasn't like I didn't. It wasn't like I didn't have the time, but it was unmanaged unmanaged energy, which was due to feeling low, being depressed and all of that. So you need to identify what drains you. So what are the conflict? What are the unpredictability? Your decision fatigue. So I think for me too, I was also going through that decision fatigue thing, and then of course lack of sleep. I don't know if anyone else, if anyone's child is like my son, because then my son wouldn't sleep. Even when you give him melatonin, he still wouldn't sleep. So half of the night we were awake. And then at 6 o'clock, I needed to get him ready for the bus to pick him up at 7. Okay. And after that, I'll go to class. So it was just too much as well for me, you know. Yeah. So, and again, yeah. So, what's it called? The constant vigilance. So, because you always have your attention on them as well, So, basically, you need to kind of, understand and just regain control of your energy. you know Identify your restorers. So what makes you come alive? So it's a quiet, the quietness of everywhere, movement, sunlight, prayer, breathing. Again, it brings us back to the first one of spending time, making out time for yourself. So you need to create, and again, like I said, you need to be very intentional about this thing. That's the truth. Nobody's going to do it for you. It has to be you doing that. So you need to create a 5 to 10 minute reset ritual that you can repeat on hard days. So all of these kind of help you. Yeah. Okay, so right, so I think I have just about 2 more slides, and then another one: integrate your roles. So you do not need to disconnect it, like I said it earlier on. So there's nothing like you're the caregiver you're okay. So for me, I'm a Bube's mom, and this is me. I'm Rosemary. It's one person. So if you think about integration, is healthier than pretending your needs and your caregiving that they live in separate. You're one person. So the question now is, ask yourself, how can you bring more of yourself into the life that you already have? So in other words, identifying yourself. Look for routines where self and care can coexist. Now, okay, again, I remember there was somewhere I used to take my son to, so parent and child group, something like that. So while the children are doing their own thing, you could also go in there and you're doing something else, So these are, these are things that we need to think about. So just remember that wholeness matters more than perfection. And then the last one would just be, rebuilding does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in repeated choices. So remember, the same way I got lost over time without even knowing, right? So it's the same way, but just choose one. Start from one even. So you maybe this week, today is only the beginning of the week. So choose one boundary you want to set for yourself. Choose one thing you will stop apologizing for. Choose one part of yourself you refuse to lose, even if it was something small. Again, that question, please always remember, who am I becoming beyond Christ, beyond guilt, beyond pure survivor? So when all of the when all of the drama, quote unquote, when they're all over, who are you? Who are you going to be? Okay. So in closing, I've just said, remember, just to summarize everything I've talked about, caregiving is part of your story. It will always be your story, but it's not your whole identity. You were never meant to disappear in love, but you were meant to expand in it. And again, I just said CPT courses. So choose one act of self-reclamation, something that you would do and they'll give you a certificate. Even if it wasn't a certificate, even if it were something that you would do and you see the effect there, and you heal yourself. So just choose something. But the reason I said CPT courses, because I know these are some online courses that you could even do that can help. So I think with that, I come to the end of my presentation, because I'm very open to questions, right?
Wow,
Thank you.
wow, wow, wow. Dr. Rosemary, you gave us what we were expecting. You open our eyes, and we've really seen why we really don't need to shrink. We need to rebuild ourselves. We don't need to lose ourselves in caregiving at all. And you see the framework you gave us, the rebuild framework. is a powerful one. And this is one of the things I teach in Thrive Beyond Cerebral Palsy Academy. There's no way that you can parent your child intentionally and don't see results.
Exactly.
So when we put ourselves in a fixed position, we don't want to be flexible, then we begin to see life as if, oh, everything is on my head. It will look as if the ground should open and you enter and let you enter inside so that you just be buried. Because we begin to see this journey as, oh God, why me?
Exactly.
God, why me? Until you come out of that place of denial, you can't see clearly. You were talking about CPD courses and all that. Sometimes we come with programs like this, you don't see our people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You don't see them. Everybody's saying, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. At the end of the day, everybody is claiming no time to rest. This morning, I remember in my 90 days mentorship classes, this week is just a week for reflection. And I gave them some assignments. I said, you have to put this into work. You have to test yourself. You have to launch yourself out there. As someone that have gone through a mentorship program, you need to come out refined. And you can use that as a place of rest for yourself. Oh, I'm taking this course because I want to become someone different from being a caregiver. Because you said something that we are just one person. After caregiving, when your child no longer needs you or your child needs has changed, who are you?
Yeah. Who are you?
I'm Mommy Desire, for example, but I'm also Coach Catherine Irene.
True.
I can't just shrink because I have a child with additional needs. You see, when you talk about structure, something came to my mind. If you don't manage your energy well, if you don't manage your energy, know when your energy are high, know when I can do this thing and I know I will get good results. See, you will parent in emptiness. You will parent in emptiness. There's no two way about it, because I tell people, I say, nobody's coming to save you. You will have to walk that life out yourself. And that is the reality of life. I've come to see some children. Because when we talk about cerebral palsy, we're talking about children not able to maybe have good motor functions and all that. You understand? Movement is mostly affected. So if you don't create a routine for that, before your child gets to age 14, 15, you begin to see them with hands that have curved. You see them, even when you are feeding, it looks as if you are not feeding them. Because there's no structure. You don't even understand who your child is. Because you have not put yourself in a place where you can actually learn.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Even the so-called NGO at the moment, they are overwhelmed because the clue of how this thing should be run, parents are not even ready to put that effort. We are still in that place of denial where we think there's somebody that is coming to help. The world have left that place now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world has left that place. Because it comes to a point in your life, you begin to ask yourself, aside taking care of my child, who am I? Is a question that we really need to ask ourselves. We are not saying you need to tell us the answer here. We are just saying reflect on the kind of life you live at the moment. Your identity. Like in my academy, my 1 year academy is starting next year. So we are putting people on waiting list now. Those that want to be there. Where we release tools where parents will begin to work with their child intentionally. We give them tools and say, oh, you need to do this. You have structure. You have to learn emotional intelligence. You have to learn time management. You have to learn understanding your child's, even your child feeding style or your child feeding habits. You learn it. Because it's not all about food. I have a course that is coming up very soon, and it is titled Understanding Your Child Learning, your child feeding style. Because we've come to understand that Some people they feed their children with just safe food. Food they believe, oh, is safe for my child. And the child is not getting enough nutrients. Sometimes we tend to even force the food down their throats. That is abuse.
Yeah.
Because just because you want it easy. You don't know the food your child likes because there's no routine, there's no structure. You see that aspect we talked about?
Yeah, the last one we had. Remember the lady that came in, the lady that came last on Thursday?
Yes, Dr. Joy. Yeah.
Yes, Dr.
Emmanuel,
Joy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Joy. Exactly. You understand? These are the things that we need to learn. And again, we should allow our perspective to be challenged. You know these myths that are everywhere. People say things about children with additional needs, and you have not come to terms that this child I have is the one I have or not the one I wish I had. Oh, you see that story of Somalia? You were going to Los Angeles. You now find yourself in Somalia. Now you forgot yourself in Somalia, forgetting that you were going to Los Angeles.
Exactly.
Sometimes we are still in that place that, oh, I'm not getting off this flight. You start making trouble with the pilot. And it takes time for you to now realize that no flight is coming.
No flight.
No connection around this place. And time has passed. I will tell you a story. Just yesterday, I saw on Facebook a girl named Sarah. She's about 21 or 22 years old. And she passed on. Someone was trying to help, but the parents were still, oh, this kind of spiritual kind of thing. The thing is coming from somewhere. If you see this child of 21, she looks like maybe of blessed memory now. She looks like a child of, will I say 6 or 7 years old. And you've been parenting this child the same way till 21. You refuse to change your mindset. That's what we call fixed mindset. You are not getting results. You see, for us to actually rebuild ourselves without losing ourselves in caregiving, it needs you learning, unlearning, relearning.
Yeah, relearning. Yeah, true.
Be in a space where only truth will be told. Because you know why? You read so many things at the same time. Even when you go to doctors, sometimes your head is full. You don't even know the right answer. You don't even know the right questions to even ask. But if you're in a place where they point you and begin to see your flaws, I'm talking about place of mentorship. That is what we do. In Thrive Beyond Cerebral Palsy, we do monthly courses, paid courses. We do 90 days mentorship, and we run the full academy. The 90 days mentorship is mainly for parents, where they rebuild, just what you said, they rebuild, they reset their mind. They begin to see themselves that I am more than a caregiver. That purpose, original purpose, why God created them, they begin to see it differently. And our last cohort, our first cohort is ending next week, and we are starting a new cohort on the 2nd of May. I bet you slots are being filled up. People are coming and saying, yes, I want to be that person God wants me to be. I wrote a book, My Pain, My Gain. It was inspired by just how I was able to leave a place of denial, just like what you were saying. We tend to stay in that place for too long. But I'm particularly excited for people that are beginning to be aware at this early stage. The mistake we made, we are putting them together and say, you don't need to go this way. Come into an academy like this, come into a space like this, and everything that tends to weigh us down, we begin to expose it to you. Because what are we looking for? We are looking for results, solution. And clearly, I heard God said, I am raising parents of special needs children, parents that have children with additional needs, to become influential in this time. So that you can be able to challenge some narrative. You can be able to challenge the government. Because we can't just sit down in our rooms and say, oh, we are well read, oh, we know this. And if you don't have money, ma, can you be able to challenge any system? When you talk about research, thank God you are in the academics. When you talk about research, is it not money?
Yeah, it is.
So we can't we can only rebuild ourselves.
Yeah.
If we submit ourselves to learning, submit ourselves to mentorship. Just like you said, caregiving is part of our story.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not our identity. Science called it cerebral palsy. Science called it autism. But your child has an identity. You yourself, as a mother that is caring for a child with special needs, you have your own identity. So therefore, you don't need to lose yourself. I will give you an example again because I like telling stories a lot because my
it makes
daughter
it relatable. Yeah, it makes it relatable.
Yes, my daughter's story has really taught me so many things. You know, I never knew I could even learn how to parent my children. You know, you were saying I need to become first. As you are caring for your child, you will not know that child that you are caring for, or you are the things you are learning, it's for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's this subconscious in us that feels our children, especially these are adorables, they don't have emotions. We just assume that these ones they don't matter, but inside of us we love them. But coming to understand who they are is a difficult problem. And by so doing, you begin to lose yourself. I was speaking with somebody and the person said there are some parents that will look for a place where they want to keep their children. And sometimes when it is time to come and pick their child, they don't show up. That connection is no longer there. The way you connect with the rest of your children, that is the way you are supposed to connect with that child. It's not enough for you to say, I love my child, and you do everything for your child.
Yeah.
Just like in your first slide, you will be your child's advocate, or you will be the one to defend your child. You will do everything for your child. You will be the one to tell people, no, my child is not too fine. Please. You are just everywhere. At the end of the day, you now see that it will come, or a time will come, you will now ask yourself, I see many people say it a lot. Is this what life is all about? But sometimes we make it so. What we've just heard today, I just pray and I believe that we'll run with it. And in your closing statement, it's very profound. You said we should choose one small act of self-reclamation. When we talk about structure, if we don't put these things into place to be organized, you know that thing that you said about you hate your morning and you hate waking up in the morning. See, money is. I was teaching home therapy the other day, and I came out with a synonym, the AER, activation morning, engagement afternoon, and the re-engagement evening.
That's good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yes. So in the morning, what do you do? As you are doing that, say every day you go to therapy, you spend just 2 hours.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the remaining 22 hours at home, you feed your child. You can do therapy.
Yeah, absolutely.
You understand? And very soon, I'm coming out with consistency challenge. Those that are ready to make this caregiving as smooth as possible for themselves. I believe that particular challenge will help them. I'm particularly excited today because what you just said today is exactly what we need as parents. What we need for us to actually rebuild ourselves. We can do this. You were once in a place of denial, right? I was once in a place of denial.
I was on the flight. I was on that flight in Somalia.
Yes, I go to Somalia also because and I have to still look for a way to get to Los Angeles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, I look for a way.
Yeah.
You understand? Thank you very much, Dr. Rosemary. I really appreciate your effort. I appreciate you
You're
for
very welcome.
giving us your time. And again, the gift that you promised us. Yes, we have a gift. She's going to drop this slide. She also gave us a workbook.
Yes,
A
yes, yes.
workbook from yes.
Yes, yes. Well, yes. So it's a gift for attending this seminar. Basically, yes. So it's a workbook, and basically, to be honest, that workbook, I don't expect you to just fold it. I expect you to work on that workbook. I mean, every day, look into it. Look
Yeah.
into it, and you find out that those things are very, very practical, and it would help you. You begin to, because as far as I'm concerned, there has to be a paradigm shift. So you need to be intentional about coming alive and about empowering yourself. Like I said, little steps, just even start with one thing. So even if even if it means getting into Tribe Academy, just and okay, and something else, even logging in and being part of the trainings, because I do know that every week, sometimes twice a week, you also have lots of things to to offer. So just little steps, little steps. Yeah. So I'll send the slide, and I would, and usually that workbook, it's online. I sell it, but I'm going to give that freely to
Thanks
to
very
all
much,
the
ma'am.
to everyone that has attended this seminar. So
Oh,
I'll
we
send
are
that out.
so grateful. I just want to see if we have any question here so that we can see if we can tackle it. And I believe it is well explanatory, ma. I don't think we have any question. I'm not seeing anything on the stage.
I am my rescue. Very good. So, okay, someone said exactly. Yeah. Caregiver is part of our duty, but not our identity. True.
True.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you very much for the good comment. Someone said insightful, and someone said, "I am my rescue." Yeah.
Yeah, you need to rescue yourself.
Yeah.
You need to rescue
Yeah.
yourself. I tell people, I say it's not enough for you to go and buy that old one bed clock. Meanwhile, you can pay for a course that will help your life.
Yeah.
Only to
Absolutely.
become accountable alone. You understand?
Yeah.
One thing we do in the Drivers Circle, which is the mentorship program, is we
Yeah.
try to make parents accountable. Somebody was sharing today, said, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I went through crisis. There was something that happened, and if not for Drivers Circle, I would have been able to be stable. You know, that stability that you need to have, not running up and down. Your mind is this, and the thing came, and the thing, she was able to surmount it. You understand? You need to be in that kind of space. You need to be in that. Nothing is. I've paid a lot of money for courses. We know how these things work. How can we said leaders are readers? They are readers. You need to read books to broaden your horizon. Yes, because you there's not how you will be somebody that reads and you will not be wise.
Absolutely.
You will not make mistake. You will even know what to read part time. On the 17th of this month, which is 4 days from now, I'm organizing a free training. It's free. It's on Facebook. I've been advertising for it, for people to just come and understand about feeding, because this feeding is another thing. I've seen people, my child is not gaining weight. I was there because it happened to my daughter. My daughter was being fed with syringe from her nose, if you know raised tube or you know peg tube, from her nose down to her stomach. The first day my daughter was able to swallow a grain of rice or I don't know what they all this pasta. If you see the way I shouted, they thought I won a lottery. I could not even tell them when everybody was asking.
That was lottery for you. Yeah, that was
yes,
lottery.
everybody was asking, Ma, what is happening? I now remember, how can a child of 7 years, 8 years not able to? You understand? And all these things are the things I now put together. I have to learn my child's feeding style. And I begin to follow it. And this thing did not happen overnight. So if they tell me every day, people that knows my daughter, I have some of our old pictures. They will say, "Are you sure?" So me, I will even ask myself, so this girl has flesh inside of her, like this. And when you understand these things, your life will become more easier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was,
No,
I was, I was sharing with you earlier that my daughter now, anytime she just see me that I want to do live stream, she will just come and stay close. As I'm talking to you now, she's very close to me. She's not talking. She's just listening. That is
very
training.
important. Just training.
That is training.
True.
Because sometimes what we want to see in our children, we can model them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. No, but that's true because remember, many of them are visual learners. I'm not saying all of them, but many of them
Yes,
are
they
visual
are.
learners.
They are visuals.
So,
Yes.
yeah, exactly. I don't know if you. I think the last class that we had. Okay, I was sharing where you see when my son started potty training. So we're all girls. So I had 3 girls before him. So I mean, he was used to seeing everybody sitting down to pee. Okay, and I kept thinking because my husband was in Nigeria, so I kept thinking, how would this boy? How would I model it to him that he has to stand up to pee? Now, it was only when my husband came visiting one of the days, and all we needed to do, his dad took him into the toilet 2 times, 3 times. Then he said, peeing the right way. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So many of them are visual learners. Okay. And then so while I'm saying this now, somebody's made a comment here. I don't know if it's not a question, but let me just talk about it. Somebody said, is there a time when our children would not really need us, as in when we'll stop caregiving? Okay, well, so just to comment on that, okay, so basically, yeah, of course, it is our hope, it's our prayers that they would not, that basically it's not going to be all the time. But like I said earlier on, it may not be the same level of care we're giving to them now that they would need, basically. So for instance, okay, you were talking about we were talking about when you needed to be feeding her yourself with it. But what's happening now? She's able to eat now herself. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So it's not that level of care. So so just to reiterate, it could also be that maybe right now your child is needing toilet training or even giving that child it, but there'll come a time when the child would not need that level of care that you're giving that child now. So that's where you begin to ask yourself, who will you be then?
Exactly.
So just to correct that, because I'm
Yeah,
not
just
saying,
to retrace, yes.
exactly, because I'm not
I could
saying that.
remember our last guest that came. No, the guest before this one.
Okay.
Aminat that
Okay.
came.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
trying to
Yes.
conceive
Yes.
mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I did. I was
You
there.
remember she said there were times I stopped doing the things that I'm supposed to do. Still, I couldn't even be pregnant.
Yeah.
But I am hoping tomorrow that when my son comes, he will meet me in a place and he can continue from that. Same thing to this particular thing that we are talking about, you not losing yourself. You need to rebuild yourself because you might attach so much importance to caregiving. And when your child does not need that level of care, except you are not praying for your child to be independent. People like us, I'm preparing my daughter to get married.
Yes.
I'm preparing my daughter to get married. And let me announce to everybody, my daughter's twin brother, he will be graduating as what they call it GCSE.
Okay, yeah. So
After GCSE, yes. So they will be doing post 16 and all that.
Yeah.
Me myself, I'm giving my daughter a certificate.
Yeah.
And I will be celebrating it.
Yeah, of course.
And her certificate, we have to carry some things that are pertaining to her uniqueness. It's a plan for me. Why am I saying that? Because I have hope that even if she could not go to the kind of school that the brother is going to, she has achieved something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not praying that I should be in that position where I will care for my child without my child not be able to do something. That is why I said sometimes you launch what you have practiced. You launch even what you believe in. That is where the Bible says faith without work is dead. After you have believed all these things, after you have cared for your child, there should be a time where you should now ask yourself, after caregiving, what next?
What
That
next?
is where that question comes. After
Yes.
caregiving, who am I?
What? Yeah. Who are you after that? Yeah.
You remember when you said if somebody calls for help, we should allow
Mm-hmm.
delegation. Most of us are still in that seat that we believe we are the only people
That
that
can care
can
for your child.
care for our child. That is why you said something like you are your child's advocate. Oh, you answer for your child. You are your child's helper. You do everything.
Mm.
Even when somebody is telling you do this, like this, some of the tools we have in the driver circle, there are sometimes we will tell you, leave your child. I've tried it with my daughter. Here in the UK, they will tell you if your child has some additional needs and all that. Oh, somebody needs to be with her. You can't leave her in the house and all that. Sometimes I would give my daughter an assignment. I will leave her in the sitting room. I will go upstairs
Yeah.
because I am trying to see that she is not that same person that cannot do
Absolutely.
anything. We need to
Absolutely.
be conscious of that.
Yeah.
And
You need to be
sometimes because of that
intentional.
fear, that's
Very intentional.
intentional. That is why you need a space where you can be and later you run to. These things cannot be overemphasized. We really need to move from where we are. And we'll see our children. You know, one thing I did when I was studying what cerebral palsy is, I discovered that the brain damage has already been done. There's no progression, but it's the kind of care, the management that you give that now matters. Whether the child will move from that stage to another.
Yeah.
So if we don't understand this whole thing, we will think we are going to care for our child forever and
Forever and
ever. We will
ever.
think our children need us forever
Mhm.
and ever. No.
Yeah.
There are so many things that my daughter could not do. And if they had told me that my daughter would be able to even stand, I believe you, maybe then I would have just left everything and said, let me just be facing my life the way it's supposed to be. But no regrets, because what I am doing now, the impact I am doing now, I believe is a legacy I am leaving for my child to come and run with. And that is what I want to leave with everybody. You exist aside caregiving.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we don't have any other question, I want to thank everyone for taking their time to be here tonight to listen to this amazing topic, how to rebuild yourself without losing yourself in caregiving. If you have any questions, you can send me. Please, I want to see the last slide where you put your, I don't know if
Okay.
you can go there. Yes, where you put your handle.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dr. Rosemary she's the founder of Mindful Bridges Therapy Foundation. Yes, it's an NGO. It's an NGO both here in the UK and in Nigeria. If you want to reach her, you can send me. Okay, her details are there, but if you cannot take it
Yeah.
there, you can send me a message and we'll get you connected to her. There are so many resources.
Yeah.
There are so many resources.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay. So
somebody said I can.
I now understand. Very good. Okay, so that's Bridget Odulon. I hope I'm pronouncing that name the last name correctly. Yes. So I'm very happy that you can relate with the
Hmm.
things that I've said today that I've talked about. Yeah, and like I said,
Yeah,
please feel very free to get in touch. That's what. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, and then the workbook, I'll be sending the okay, I think you have the link for the workbook. So
yes,
basically,
yeah. I'll
yeah,
share it.
yeah, exactly. Somebody said, please, how do we receive our gift?
Yeah,
Okay,
you
yeah.
can. Yeah, if you reach me, I'm always there now. If you're on my platform, you can just chat
Hmm.
me up, and I'll even write it there that if you know you attended this course,
Yeah.
I know, because we always take record of what
Hmm.
we have each day. and we
Okay.
send it
Yeah.
across. It's not for you to get that and don't put it into work.
And
I like to
exactly.
see, I like to call people, I like to call people out. Have you done this? Have you done that? Because
Yeah.
I want to see us grow. Of a truth, we
Absolutely.
need to actually grow.
Oh, yes, we do. We do.
Yeah,
We
we
do.
need we need
We
more
need to
people in
grow.
this industry. Yes,
Yeah. Yes,
we
we
need
do.
it.
We
Yes.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, and do enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye. Bye.
Bye. See you again. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.